let's first unpack the title Managing Learner Uncertainties in Classroom. So we'll start with a simple one, classroom. So when we talk about classroom, I will be talking about three important elements of a classroom. Of course, the learners, the teacher or a facilitator, and a shared goal. So in a classroom, we have some goals that we have set, and all our teaching and learning it happens around that shared goals. So, since we'll be talking about learners and their uncertainties, let's um, let's talk about what are the different things that learners they are actually doing in a classroom. So we know that learners they are listening to the teacher, of course, they are receiving and interpreting instruction and feedback from the teacher. Then learner is listening to the peers. They're trying to observe what different perspectives their friends and their peers they are bringing into the discussions. Then they're constantly thinking, they're constantly engaged in sense making practices, right? So they're reflecting on the information, they are analyzing concepts, then they're trying to integrate knowledge. So they're trying to make sense of what they already know and what new they are learning. And then they are also responding to the questions that are posed by teacher, maybe their peers. They're contributing to discussions, they're asking questions, and they're doing different activities, maybe at the individual level, at the group level. They're solving problems. So yeah, so in a classroom a learner is doing so many things, right? So since learner is doing so many activities in a classroom, it's found that they will experience feelings of confusion, doubt. They might be surprised about something, they might be unsure about different aspects of a situation. So all these experiences and feelings that learners are having when they are in a classroom, we are calling them uncertainty. Okay, so yeah, then we are obviously we'll be talking about management of uncertainties. So before we talk about management of uncertainties, we must first understand why is it important to talk about managing uncertainties, why it's important to talk about uncertainty only. So we know that uncertainty it can cause negative experiences, like you might feel stressful, you might feel anxious when there are too many unknowns. And when you are managing the causes of uncertainty, of course, you will be managing these emotions. So, of course, learners in a classroom are also having these emotions, and managing uncertainty would help in managing their emotions. But more than that, why management of uncertainty is important is because it has been proven that uncertainty is like a precursor to learning. So it's important that students wrestle with uncertainties. They manage uncertainties in a way they try to find out the answers to their questions. And it is in this process of wrestling with uncertainty they are able to learn new things. So if we want our learners to learn in the class, we want them to experience uncertainty and, of course, manage it in a productive manner. Okay, so let's talk about now what type of uncertainties are learners experiencing in a classroom. Maybe you can think of a classroom situation. Maybe wear a learner hat, wear a teacher hat, and you can think of what are different situations that are there and what kind of uncertainties or questions or doubts can learners have while they are in a classroom. I'll give you one example. So let's take the situation of this master class, right? Maybe before you join the master class, you might be thinking about what is this master class about? What will I gain out of this talk? And now, while you are in the class, you might have some questions like, why do we need to study uncertainty? Maybe as a teacher, you can think that can't I just answer all the questions that my students have and their uncertainties will be resolved? So why do I need to study it? Similarly, maybe as you go ahead, you can ask question that how will I identify the type of uncertainties my students are experiencing? And then maybe at the end of the talk, you might think about that I have so many questions. Should I ask it to the speaker? How will the speaker or the others in the talk perceive the kind of questions I ask? So, of course, in a situation, a person can experience these different types of emotions and questions and doubts. Okay, so when we talk about a classroom, Okay, so I'll take one situation. Maybe you can think of a situation similar to this one. So imagine you want your students to understand some aspects of a concept through an engaging, open-ended, and hands-on activity. Okay, so you want to make so maybe for doing that you make some small groups of learners and you give them some simple tasks. So the example that you can see on your screen, it's from a classroom of which I was actually part of, and I was there as a mentor. And there we had given, so it's a eighth grade classroom. Okay, so we had given students a task. We asked them to create a balloon powered toy vehicle, and they were asked to maximize the distance that it can cover. So we gave them some materials, like we gave them cardboards, we gave them different sizes of straw, scissors, balloons, wheels. And so the main purpose was that we want students to figure out how different sizes of the straws it could so they were using these straws to blow air in the balloon which they used to run their vehicles, and how the different sizes of these straws it can impact the distance and the speed that their toy cover. So the bigger goal was that we want them to understand the the process of scientific inquiry and feel motivated and excited about it. So you can also think of a similar situation in a classroom. Maybe this is like for this activity, it's a small group. In a classroom, it could be a whole group conversation. A teacher might be teaching some topic, and all the students they are engaged in understanding that topics. Okay, so you can think of a similar situation, and you can take everything that I say now onwards, and you can apply it to those situations as well. Okay, so for this uncertainty that so this situation that I just mentioned, we found that learners they're asking different kind of questions. They asked that how can a balloon be used to run a vehicle? They were asking how will our vehicle look like? Then they were also uncertain about whether they will be able to complete their project on time or not. They said that I think that we'll fail and will not be able to do our job. Then some students were saying things like I don't think that my teammates idea will work, or maybe I don't think that I'll be able to do a good job as a part of this team. So they were having all these kind of uncertainties. So basically, we can say that the uncertainties that learners are experiencing in a classroom, they can be broadly categorized into these seven themes that you can see. So first is about learners, they experience uncertainty pertaining to understanding the task or the problem that has been given to them, what they want to do in that, and what are the learning objectives. Maybe in this case that they were asking that what does balloon powered mean? So they're trying to understand the problem or the task that they're doing in a class. Then, second is that they experience uncertainties pertaining to conceptualization of solutions. So, once they are into the task, they'll think about now what should be the solution, different parameters of the solutions that they're trying to figure out. In this case, they were thinking about what should be shape of the toy, right? How where will I place the balloon? What straw I have to use? So, these kind of questions. Then they experience uncertainties related to troubleshooting an issue. So, in any situation, in a classroom situation, they will be experiencing situations where they maybe face some contradicting information, and they're trying to make sense of how it is same or different to what they already know. So they might try to figure out where is the gap, and they might to troubleshoot those situations. Similarly, they also have uncertainties related to the future, basically whether the decisions and actions they are taking, they will be fruitful or not. So they can have questions like, will this idea work out or not? Will I be able to solve this question correctly or not? Then we have reflective or metacognitive type of uncertainties where they are reflecting on their processes. I mean, what they had done in the previous maybe task, or maybe previously in the same task. They might think of what strategies had worked for them, what changes that they need to make. So they are reflecting and thinking about their processes of learning when they experience such uncertainties. Okay, then we have process related uncertainty, and it is very prevalent because since students are they are faced with information that usually they don't know about, there are so many unknowns, so they'll always have those questions about what should I do next, what is the process of doing it. And sometimes they'll be clueless about key in the sense that they'll just feel demotivated and don't do anything. So they have those uncertainties related to the process of doing the task or achieving the goals that they have set. And last, we have relational uncertainties. So these are the uncertainties where learners, they are maybe doubtful about their own and also about the peers' abilities and what role they have in the task. So they can ask questions like, will my group members assign me a meaningful work? Is my idea good enough? So they'll have all these different types of uncertainties when they are learning in a classroom. Now, once we know that they experience these uncertainties, then let's talk about how do they actually respond to these uncertainties. So, research and shows that there are basically three major approaches that learners they adopt to respond to uncertainties. So first one is that they will find learners who are trying to maintain uncertainty. So what do we mean by maintaining uncertainty? It means that they'll be trying to explore different dimensions and they'll try to go deeper into investigating the questions and the doubts they have. And this will obviously lead to increasing uncertainties further, right? So you'll see that they are maybe engaging in some argumentation, they are repeatedly questioning, they are maybe seeking explanations, giving explanations, they're trying to analyze something. So these learners will be have tendency to maintain the uncertainty. Then you'll also find some learners who focus on reducing the state of uncertainty. So the major focus is that we have to converge the discussions, we have to make some decisions, and we have to move to the next issue or the aspect of the problem that we are solving. So you'll find that learners they immediately give some definitive explanations. It may or may not be backed by logic or evidence. Then you, when you're declaring decisions, then maybe someone asking direct answers, asking for direct answers from their peers or teacher, they might suggest to converge. So all these behaviors will show that now the learner is trying to reduce and the state of uncertainty that they are in. Okay. So the third one is suppressing uncertainty. So there are also learners whose focus is to ignore uncertainties, maybe expressed by teammates and even the uncertainties that they experience. So you'll see that they might delay some actions or decisions that has to be taken. Maybe they are not responding to the uncertainties expressed by their peers. They might dismiss uncertainty altogether, call it unimportant. So these are the broad ways in which you can categorize your learners and how they are responding to uncertainties. Okay, so although learners they have some tendencies and some approaches that they majorly follow, the ones that I told you, but you'll see that all the learners they do not follow the same strategy always. Okay, they'll change their strategies and approaches. It will be in a different situation or in a different kind of uncertainty. These approaches they will change. So we need to understand what are the factors that are affecting that their decisions about what uncertainty to what approach that they need to follow, and what are these factors that actually affect the way they respond to uncertainty. So basically they can be different factors, right? So they can be contextual factors. So contextual factors means that the kind of task that we have given them, is it an open ended task, is it a familiar task? So if it's open ended, there will be a lot of questions that they have. If it's a novel problem, then they don't know much about it, so they'll have so many questions. And it will depend on if they get and accordingly it will depend whether they are trying to maintain it, finding answers, or they're just trying to reduce it. Maybe they already have some answers, or maybe there are so many uncertainties they try to suppress it. Then the learning environment. So it could be collaborative. The activities that you have set up, it could be collaborative, it could be individual. You might have set it up as a competition. So this will affect what approach they follow to resolve the questions that they have. Then it's like time constraints. So what how much time has been given to them to do the task. So if it's really less time, so their approach would be like to find answers quickly, maybe. And they might also feel threatened by less time, and they might not want to face uncertainty. So this so the contextual factors will of course play a role in how they are responding to uncertainty. Then there are of course individual factors. So learners, they will have some individual characteristics, so their prior knowledge and experiences that will inform how they approach uncertainty. Their appraisals of situations, so whether they see uncertainty as a danger or whether they see as an opportunity, it will affect how they are responding to it. If they're very self confident, then they will be more they'll try to maintain it, try to find answers and not maybe ignore it. And their goal orientations, how they are viewing the task itself. Do they actually want to make sense or learn, or they are more concerned about what completing the task or what the teacher will think, or if I'll get good marks or not. So I just need to tick off something and I'll be able to achieve my goal. So how they are viewing the goal, how they are viewing the aspect of acquiring knowledge when they are engaged in a task. And third, and most important, of course, others are also, but the one that we'll be talking in detail are the social and relational factors. So you'll see that the how the learners, they are communicating, and how the different actors in a classroom, the teacher, their peers, how they are behaving and interacting, it will have a huge impact on how they are managing uncertainties. So, in the talk, as I told, that we'll be more talking about more open-ended, collaborative kind of situations, because there are more chances to cover the different types of uncertainties that learners experience, and we'll focus on their goal orientations and aspects of relational factors inside in a classroom in more detail as we go ahead. Okay. So next is okay. So we know that learners are experiencing uncertainty. So how, maybe as a teacher or someone in a classroom, how can we identify that learners, they are experiencing uncertainty? What are those markers that we can pay attention to in a classroom? So we can sorry. So we can identify uncertainties of learners through their behaviors. For example, are they asking questions? They might ask some basic or questions about which show that they are surprised, they are wondering about something. Then statements of inability. They might say something like, "I don't know what to do." Then there are some self reports of mental states. They can say, "I'm not sure, I'm confused." Then then you might see some hesitations while students are speaking or when you're interacting with them. So there might be some silent pauses, there might be some sounds of hesitation. They might use words like often, never, might, perhaps. And very important, the non-verbal indicators. Even if they're not saying something, their non-verbal behaviors, it can indicate that they're experiencing uncertainty. For example, they might avoid making an eye contact when there are some questions on the plate, and they want and the class as a whole or group as a whole is trying to find answers to it. They might be fidgeting, they might be some hesitant hand movements, they might be nervously smiling. So these non-verbal indicators can also indicate that they are not comfortable about some information that is being discussed. They might have some answers and they might have some doubts. Okay. Now, we know that there are different types of uncertainties that learners experience, and we know factors that can affect them. But we also need to understand what is our goal with respect to students managing uncertainty. So, we need to understand what are those indicators of productive uncertainty management. So, how can you say while looking at the behaviors and activities happening in a classroom that students are managing the uncertainties well? So basically, these behaviors and actions, they can be viewed at both individual and group level. So you can also pay attention to individual learners, and you might find the indicators that can hint towards productive management. And if there is some group activity, and of course if some collaborative discussions are happening even at a whole classroom level, then you can also make sense of what is happening at a classroom group level, and that can give you an indication of productive management of uncertainty. I talk about these things. So, for example, first is when learners are acknowledging and proactively responding to uncertainty. So you can see at the individual. So are they acknowledging instead of ignoring uncertainty? Are they asking questions? Are they seeking answers? Are they engaging in action when they face uncertainty? Then it means that they are on some right track. Then is maintaining uncertainty followed by informed reduce. So you can see this at a group level. So if you see that when some discussions are happening, learners are exploring, they're asking questions, there are disagreements, there are arguments, counter arguments, they're experimenting. And with time, they are transitioning to refining, synthesizing, making decisions, concluding. Then it means that they are managing uncertainties in an effective manner. Third is that they refer to relevant, credible sources for feedback and knowledge. So, are they seeking feedback, first of all? Are they asking questions from, first is, are they asking questions? And second is, are they asking questions or are they trying to find answers from the relevant and appropriate resources? um, and also, are they ensuring that the resources or the tools that they're referring to, are they credible or not? So these behaviors, if they're engaging in, then it indicates that they are engaging in the management of uncertainties productively. Then are they keeping track of micro and macro process? What does it mean? That they are aware of their position with respect to the bigger picture, the bigger problem that they are solving, and of course they are also aware about what is their current situation. So for that, you can see that they are breaking down uncertainty, and while they break down, they are also trying to evaluate how these sub uncertainties, they are interconnected to each other. In the process, if you see that they are reflecting on what they have done and what they have not done, if they're tracking their progress and also regulating their strategies, I mean, what worked for them before, what changes that they want to make. So if they're doing these things, we can say that they are keeping track of their progress, and it's a good sign that can indicate that they are productively engaging in uncertainty management. Then is productive relational dynamics. Of course, you can look at how they are behaving and interacting with their peers. You can see that the behaviors at individual as well as at group level. So at group level, are all the learners, they are helping each other? Are they all speaking equally? At individual level, you can look at what kind of contributions are individuals making. Is it conceptual in nature or not, or is it just about passing the materials to the other person, or something that's not related to the task? Are individuals having all these individuals having say in decision making? Are their inputs being considered? So if there is this productive things happening with respect to the relationship among the learners, we can say that they are maybe managing uncertainties in an effective manner. Then is productive orientation towards acquiring knowledge. So how are they viewing their goals? Is it aligning with the sense making processes? That is, are they asking a lot of questions that target making connections? Are they engaging in inquiry processes? Are they comparing to the prior understandings? Are they seeking logic or justifications? If it's happening, then it's a sign of productive uncertainty management. And the last is maintaining a positive attitude. So it's very important that learners, they are positive even when they might not be finding answers to their questions. So if they're persistently engaging with uncertainty despite failures, and they are appreciating the progress even if it's small, and they are motivating their peers, then it indicates that they are managing uncertainties in a productive manner. Okay. So next question that we have is, okay, we know that the learners experience different type of uncertainties. There are different factors that are impacting them, and what we actually want to look for when we say that we want students to manage uncertainties productively. Now, maybe as a teacher, as a facilitator, or someone who wants to help the students to manage those uncertainties, what we can actually do. So we'll now talk about some guidelines and maybe some practical things that we can do to help learners manage uncertainties. So the first guideline is to sensitize the learners. So it's very important that you sensitize learners about the role and nature of uncertainty that they play in the learning process. So you need to familiarize them with what is the nature of uncertainty. They should know that uncertainties are subjective. That is, different learners, they can experience different kinds of uncertainties and all are valid. It doesn't mean that one is having a some better uncertainty than others that they can express. So that's the subjectiveness of the uncertainty. Then they should also be aware that it's layered, it's interconnected. So they'll have a lot of questions related to maybe one single topic, and they will be interconnected that they'll feel confused about it. So it's the nature of uncertainty and it's bound to happen. They should be aware of that. Then is that uncertainty is dynamic in nature. So they should know that uncertainty, the nature of it will also change with time. So they'll not have a same question all the time, and the nature and the what they are asking for in with respect to a concept, it will change. It may also lead to increase in uncertainty and even decrease in uncertainty, and it will happen when they are managing the uncertainty. So, second is the importance. We need to emphasize that uncertainty, it can help them become better problem solvers and learners. Then we need to normalize the feeling that it's okay to feel uncertain. It's a common experience and everyone faces uncertainty. Then is we need to encourage curiosity in the classrooms. We need to tell learners that they have to embrace uncertainty, and this they can do by looking at uncertainty as an opportunity to ask questions, explore new ideas, and not something that will maybe lead to some penalization in the classroom. And then for this, of course, it's important that we create supportive classroom environment. So we have to foster an atmosphere where it's okay to make mistakes and ask for help. As teachers and facilitators, we need to praise the efforts and curiosity that learners show, and not only praise them when they're just giving some correct answers. And then we need to model and share. We have to show what and how to manage uncertainties. So show students that how we can break the tasks into smaller steps, where to go and seek information, how to make plans. We as teachers can demonstrate them to the students, and then we want them to relate the experiences of uncertainties to what's actually happening in the real life context. So we need to share some stories and examples from daily life where uncertainty plays an important role. So after sensitizing, the next guideline is being aware as a teacher about the context or the situation that learners are currently in the classroom. So ensure that you understand what specific problem they are currently experiencing and what are the interconnected the topics to it, so that when they ask questions, you can guide them in an informed manner and direct them or ask them questions that are connected to the uncertainties that help uh, exploring, which will help them actually resolve the uncertainty that they have. Then you also have to be attentive about the diverse standpoints that has been shared in the classroom. What are students telling? From where their examples are coming from? So knowing about what students think in a classroom, what are the different experiences that they are connecting uncertainty to, it will help you to help learners resolve their questions. And then tracking the evolution, you have to observe how the students' ideas and understandings, they are changing over time. What was the initial state with which they started? What arguments were they made? Which were accepted? Which were rejected? what are the current gaps that need to be filled. So you have to be very attentive about how that evolution of the question, asking questions and finding answers is happening inside the classroom. Then second is that you need to be aware of your learners' characteristics. So we did talk about that learners, they have different tendencies towards and views about how to acquire knowledge. So being a teacher, you are in a best position to pay attention to how your learners, they are in their daily interactions inside the classroom. How are they approaching the this knowledge acquisition aspect in a classroom? Are they always trying to make sense and they are very curious about learning? Are they trying to quickly fix these the unknowns or questions that they have? Are they want their uncertainty to be always resolved by some authority figure or someone who is more knowledgeable? Are they actually looking unconcerned, or are they not asking any questions? Or even if you are asking them questions, are they unconcerned or unbothered? So you have to know your learners and how they're approaching the this endeavor of uncertainty management. Then, about knowing your learners, it's important to know how your learners in a classroom, they generally view or perceive themselves and others in the classroom. Are they looking at others as equal collaborators? Are there relationships that show some supervisor assistant kind of relationship, meaning maybe there is one dominant person who is always speaking in a class or always making decisions for others, and others who are just abiding what that person is saying? Are there relationships which shows that one person is considering the other person as insignificant? So these things will matter, because when they are resolving uncertainties together, when they are discussing in a classroom, these behaviors are going to impact how they are behaving in a classroom. So being aware about them as a teacher will help you to resolve their uncertainties in a productive manner. Then it's important to be aware about your impact on learners. Actually, research it shows that teachers in a classroom, they have a huge impact on students, and they always view teacher as something who is more knowledgeable, who has all the answers, and whom they can always visit and get the answers to their questions. So teacher actually has the power to trigger both productive and unproductive shifts in the classroom. These shifts can be in how learners approaching uncertainty, and also how learners are perceiving themselves and others while they are learning in a classroom. So since teacher has such a power, so teacher can actually leverage this power. They can take a non-directive approach. They, instead of giving them just direct answers, engage them in some exploratory questions. Give them some prompts that that they'll want to engage in sense making processes. Give equal opportunities and treat all learners as valuable. This will reinforce positive relational dynamics in a classroom. And then you, as a teacher, can shift the perceptions that students have that teacher is an authority figure, to someone who is there to help them, who is learning with them, and who can guide them whenever they feel stuck or they want some help. So they can come to that teacher. So it's very important to be aware of how a teacher actually has a huge impact on the on what students are doing in a classroom. Next, then we should also provide learners opportunities that they can analyze and choose appropriate resources. We need to provide them access to tools, maybe experimentation, some simulations when they're exploring, relevant videos and books, maybe some experts who can tell them about the problem that they are solving. And also, we need to give them opportunities that they can analyze and evaluate the appropriateness and credibility of these resources. We can have such activities with them where they can learn to evaluate whether the resource that they are visiting is credible or not. Then we need to enable reflective and metacognitive thinking. We need to implement some protocols that where the students, they pause and they reflect during learning. So you can ask learners to assess what has been resolved, what knowledge they have constructed, and identify gaps themselves and talk about their current progress. They can also maintain reflective journals and do some reflective assignments that you give. So help them reflect on the learning strategies and maybe compare approaches with the peers, analyze how others' methods might help in their own learning and uncertainty management process. Then, very important that you need to keep track of learners' emotions in the classroom. And from those emotions, you can actually demystify the cause and even identify that they are experiencing uncertainty. Okay, so you can see that if your students are feeling frustrated, excited, maybe feeling proud, demotivated, or disappointed, it can indicate that they might be facing some uncertainty, or it can indicate an effect that an uncertainty is having on their learning process. For example, they might be feeling very excited and proud because they had some early success in solving a question, or they might be very frustrated or demotivated to do the other task because they have been facing very repeated failures or there is lack of support. So even if we want learners to experience failures because it will help them explore more, but we don't want them to experience failure to the extent that they feel demotivated. So it's very important to intervene at a right position, and emotions will help you identify those moments of uncertainty and what effect that it is having on the learners. Then the next guideline is that we need to instill attitudes in the learner so that they value group diversity, they recognize differing strengths, they and so that's something that promotes equal participation in the classroom. So there is a very famous five-stage interaction technique that you can use in a classroom. So the first stage is the forming stage. So you let learners reflect on and experience their and express their uncertainties and anxieties. Maybe you can have a whole classroom discussion. They can talk about their usual uncertainties and anxieties when they are discussing in a classroom, and students can know about other team members and determine some common viewpoints and values there. Second stage is the storming stage, where you let learners understand that they have to take active role in defining the objectives, doing the tasks, and participating in the tasks to solve the joint problem. Third is the norming stage, where you let learners communicate so that they agree on ways of working together. So they make some norms and rules, and you have to monitor them so that they align with the principles that equal participation is happening, all the diversity is being valued and respected, and different strengths of different students that's being leveraged. So you have to see how what kind of norms the students are making during the norming stage. Then is the actual performing stage, where learners, they are held accountable to conduct themselves by the norms and to equally contribute to resolving the uncertainties. So you may have to go and regularly monitor if these things are happening. And then it's the adjourning stage. So once learners, they have completed the task, then they can go and they can reflect on their collaborative activity and express their feelings regarding working together. Then again, you need to reflect on your own decisions and actions, right? It's important to think about what you are doing as a teacher. Is it giving enough opportunities to learners to experience and express their uncertainties? For example, is the activity that you have chosen, is it suitable for the topic that you are teaching? Then maybe what kind of structures or participation structures have you implemented? Is it a small group activity? Is it a classroom discussion? Is it an individual task? For example, if you have a small group activity and you are the only person who has to monitor all the students in your class, then it would be difficult to keep track of the specific problems that each group is facing, right? It would be difficult to track the evolution of the team. So you have to think about what you want to achieve from an activity and whether this structure will help you and your learners to engage productively in the questions that will come up during the process of doing those tasks. Then timing of intervention, you have to think, is it the right time to intervene or tell, or do I need to just nudge them or guide them towards something that they can explore the question more. So you have to reflect on what's the right time to tell and what to tell, of course. Then afterwards, you have to reflect on the responses that you give to learners' queries. Think about questions like, could I have responded better by asking a counter question or maybe introducing some another small activity? Was I sensitive towards the learner when I was responding to the query? Then, of course, how did you respond to the learners' emotions? How did I respond to to the learners' emotions while they were dealing? And how did my response to their emotions, it triggered a reaction or change in their behaviors? So when you reflect on your own decisions and actions, it will help you to guide what actions you as a teacher need to take to help learners manage uncertainties productively in a classroom. Okay, so lastly, I would talk about maybe a situation where some of you might think, my students do not face any uncertainty in my class. Isn't it a good thing? And I think it shows my students have understood everything taught in the class. So, as I discussed right in the beginning, that uncertainty is actually a precursor to learning. So, if your students are not asking questions, if you cannot see any indicators that they are feeling uncertain, maybe something is wrong. You need to basically ask yourself that, did you provide your learners with enough opportunities to experience uncertainty? So, this model or diagram that you see on your screen, here you can see this is telling how actually learners experience uncertainty and they go about managing the uncertainty. So it always starts with externalizing uncertainty with external cues or situations that can trigger some critical noticing of the aspects of the concept or task that you're doing. And then when learners notice something, it will trigger some questions in their mind, some doubts in their mind, and it's a possibility that they will be externalizing their doubts and uncertainties, and afterwards it will impact and it will lead them to engage with the management of those uncertainties. So if this is happening in your class, then maybe the external cues that help them notice important information are missing. So in that case, what you want is that you want to give learners some cues that they can notice the critical uncertainties. So just broadly, I'll talk about different things that you can do. Maybe you can bring some materials and artifacts that can trigger their thinking. For example, the example that I talked about, we gave them different straws of different sizes, and we gave them some cues so that they can think about which one of these straws will help in maximizing the distance of the vehicle. So when learners see those straws, these questions will trigger in their mind. Then you can organize some debates where some contrasting opinions they are being put forward, and learners start talking about the important questions. You can always intervene and ask questions. You can use strategies like asking questions to predict something, observe something, and explain that. So that will help them engage in or think about the questions that are important to the topic. And of course, you can show them something unexpected or contradictory through an experiment or video that will motivate them, excite them, and they'll start asking questions. Okay, so with that, I will be ending my talk. But before that, I would like to say that we have to be aware that uncertainties in a classroom, it's a result of complex dynamics of so many factors that's happening. There are different individuals who are coming from different backgrounds, cultures. Then they have different situations at their home. Then at individual level, they are facing different types of uncertainties. As a group level, there will be different patterns that you will be observing. So it's not easy to identify uncertainty sometimes, and very difficult actually to interpret the exact causes of those uncertainties. Hence, we should know that one can go wrong as a teacher or maybe unsuccessful in effectively helping learners manage uncertainties in the classroom always. But we need to remember that it's a learning process and constant conscious efforts. It can improve the skill of helping learners manage uncertainties effectively. With that note, I'll end the talk. So, this is a cheat sheet that I just prepared, which can help you to start responding to the specific types of uncertainties that learners can experience. You can visit them afterwards when you revisit the talk, and you can use them to maybe make your own prompts that are relevant to your own situations. Okay, so with that, I would end my talk and thank you everyone for listening. And yeah, I'm open to questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Navneet. Due to some technical issue, we missed the initial introduction part. So I'll just revise that for our viewers. So, for the everyone, the title of the today's masterclass was about managing student uncertainties in classrooms, and we have Dr. Navneet Kaur as an expert for today's talk. She helped us in understanding and exploring about the student uncertainties and how to manage them. I'll just briefly reintroduce her. Dr. Navneet is a learning scientist with PhD in educational technology from Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, India. Her expertise lies in the domain of learning science research, particularly at K-12 level, and she also works on designing and evaluating edtech for effective teaching learning experiences. Currently, Dr. Navneet is working as an user experience researcher at UNESCO MGIP Delhi, India. Thank you very much, Dr. Navneet, for joining us. I will reiterate few questions for you. I've also posted those on YouTube Live. Maybe I can take. Maybe you can pick any of your choice, or yeah. So student have diverse backgrounds. You have mentioned about that, and they also do have different level of confidences. And these days, like classrooms are large. So how do you think we can identify and manage uncertainties in these kind of scenarios? Can you comment on that?
Yeah, so as I was mentioning, first that we need to first be aware of the thing that we cannot always know everything about our learners, right? But we as teachers who are communicating with them on daily basis, um, we are communicating with them, and they are also doing tasks that we are giving them. So they will be asking questions, they will be in some manner expressing their uncertainties, maybe through non-verbal cues, maybe they're not speaking in the classroom at all. So you have to be actually attentive about what these different learners are doing in a classroom. So when you start paying attention, maybe you cannot always pay attention to all the students at one time. So you have to give yourself time. Give yourself time, pay attention to specific characteristics that you can actually observe in a classroom. And with time, you can get a sense of how your learners they are responding to uncertainties, what kind of questions they are asking. So based on that, you can start thinking about what how to tailor your strategies effectively, right? So if there are so many students, you can find patterns in your classroom. If there are so many students who are not asking any questions, so you know that okay, I have to do something that they start asking questions. Maybe you just you do not give them an option. You ask them that okay, in every class each student has to ask two questions. So as students, they will now start thinking, okay, my teacher wants me to ask some questions, I have to think about, and I have to listen to the topic, and I have to think about what I know and what I don't understand. So slowly trying to understand your learners, and then maybe identifying some patterns in a classroom, it can help to cater to the larger audience.
Great, great. Thank you so much. So again, I was curious and I was thinking while you were talking about uncertainties. So these days, it's an era of using AI tools for gaining knowledge and learning, especially. So even I observed that a lot of kids and students use it. So can you comment on how the tools like ChatGPT or any generative AI or any other AI tools can be incorporated for identifying identifying the uncertainties, as well as using it for the betterment of students after
Yeah.
identifying that?
Interesting question. You must have seen that I have shared a cheat sheet at the end, right? So
Yes.
I prepared that with help of ChatGPT.
Okay.
So um, so of course we can take help of the AI generative tools, but we have to be very careful about what we want to ask from AI, and what are the experiences that we as teachers have, and we want to depend on them. So you have to first be confident about your own experiences, in terms of that, yes, I know my learners better, yes, I know that what they're doing in a classroom, and I am in a better position to handle their uncertainties. So
Okay.
instead of going to AI to ask that what should I do, maybe you can give a situation that you have in your classroom. Ask AI that, okay, this is the situation that I have, and I did something. So, how you prompt AI, that's a different thing. So, you have to give some good prompts to it. But depend on your own experiences and some information that maybe some research and literature tells you, to take help of the AI or other generative other tools. So, for example, I have information. I have done my PhD on this topic. I know that how learners, they are behaving in a classroom, and based on those, I gave some prompts to ChatGPT to ask. Okay, so this is, I want to give these three types of prompts. One is that maybe directly answers the questions when they have tried everything. One is in the beginning of the topic, when I want to explain something, and there will be so many questions that students have.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to give intelligent prompts to AI, and of course it will help us in um, bet in responding to student uncertainties in a better way. But yeah, we have to be conscious about the thing that we do not completely depend on an AI tool, but also on our experiences and what we know as teachers.
Yeah, thank you. That was a great response and good food for thought. We also have a question from Ritajit. He's saying, what are some of the attention indicators that can be placed on a teacher dashboard for noticing and support? Yeah, it looks like he's talking in terms of some learning management system. Yeah.
Okay. Um, Teacher dashboard for noticing and support. So attention
Attention indicator. Yeah.
indicators. Can you clarify the question? I mean, attention indicators for students, but on teacher dashboard. That's a little confusing. But okay, so I'll talk about if there is some digital learning experience platform, maybe the one that I think Ritu has asked, Ritu Majumdar. Okay,
Yes.
so on such platforms, if maybe I'm taking a situation that a teacher has access to the students, maybe data about how they are. What how they are maybe looking at the videos that have been posted, what questions that they have answered. So we need to, I think we need to, whatever that has been there on the platform itself, we have to connect it to the aspects of uncertainties that we want learners to notice. So as teachers, or maybe as designers of the platform, we need to be aware of what we want learners to notice for a topic or a specific task. And when we are aware of those things, accordingly we can add those indicators on the platform. So maybe give them students some prompt whenever they have attempted some question like 4 times and we know that they need some help. So there we need to pay attention. So the indicator will be like student has attempted it maybe x number of times and it has crossed the limit that we have set, and now we need to intervene. A teacher has to intervene, or a teacher has to give some suggestion to the student. So basically, first point is that we have to be aware of what are these specific points that we want learners to notice. We have to map it to what it would look like on a digital platform. We have to, and then accordingly we can place the indicators on the platform itself.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. I hope that has answered Ritojit's question. We can take a couple of more questions and then we can end the session.
Sure.
Kennedy is asking, how can teacher balance managing uncertainties while ensuring the pace of the lesson and it is not disrupted?
Yeah. So one is that we have to uh, okay. We should not. So one first point is that we should not separate uncertainty from learning. So if something is happening in a classroom and if students are having some questions and there are a lot of questions in a classroom, then it's a good sign. It's a sign that students are engaging in the lesson, and even if it might be impacting the pace, maybe we can take up those questions. But of course, teachers have the targets that they have to complete. Of course, there is a lot of syllabus. Then we have to devise some strategies. If there are a lot of questions, then teacher might have to do some extra effort, give some assignment to a student. Maybe if there is some learning management system there, she can ask student to post those questions and then be active on the platform and respond to them, not during the class hours but afterwards. Or there can be some interesting activity that she can ask them to go to do when they go back home. It will also help in triggering their interest or maybe enhancing their interest, and maybe them trying to figure out all the questions that they have. So yeah, so my thing is that one, uh, sometimes it's okay if the pace is disrupted, and second, we can use these strategies that can help to, of course, maintain some pace in the classroom and address student uncertainties maybe outside the classroom.
Yeah, thank you, Navneet. Maybe just the last question that I can take. So I was curious also to know, how can we train AI to identify the uncertainty? I mean, if you can skip if you
AI to identify uncertainties. So, can you talk more
how can we
about?
train? How can we
Yeah, yeah,
train?
yeah.
Yeah,
So in what context? I mean, maybe if a student is interacting with AI and you want AI to identify that student is having that uncertainty, maybe if you can talk about the context.
we can take that context. Yeah, we can
Okay,
take
so
that.
maybe if so I'm not an expert. First of all, I can't talk about how we can train the AI. But of course, maybe as researchers, what we need to do is we need to start maybe feeding different prompts. We can categorize those prompts as good prompts, not so good prompts, and we can see how the AI is responding to it. And so one is that would be understanding maybe if there is an already existing AI model or something and how it responds to queries. And basically, we can use that information to refine the prompts and maybe tell that what kind of things will help. And for AIs to, and of course, to train AIs, we can again, just as a user, what I would do, not as a AI expert who is building the AI models, I would tell, as an expert in the topic and as a user, I would maybe tell the AI that this is what I want and these are the kind of responses that were useful that you gave. and I can tailor the AI's responses when I ask more questions. So from the user perspective and someone who knows what is right or wrong. But at the back end, yes, we need to maybe sit with experts and think about how we can train AI models.
Thank you very much, Dr. Navneet, for educating and enlightening us with your knowledge on managing student uncertainties. Once again, thank you for joining us. For our viewers, please do subscribe our channel, and we would be happy to see you for our upcoming masterclasses and other events by EdTech Society. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.